Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're peeling back the layers on a decision that I think faces every enthusiast out there.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, whether you're building a classic car or even selecting a new plant for your home, it's that tension, right?
Yeah.
The tension between that irresistible, immediate visual appeal and the long-term, cold, hard, practical commitment that it's going to require. And we dove into a really fascinating resource for this, a gardener's journal.
It's titled Notes on Gardening, Part 742.
Yeah, and this isn't just a list of what they planted. It's a deep dive into the internal calculus.
Exactly.
The thought process behind acquiring one specific, really spectacular species, the Siam Tulip.
So if you, our listener, have ever fallen in love with something gorgeous only to be, kind of crushed by the reality of the upkeep,
This one is definitely for you.
that's absolutely right. The mission for you today is to really move beyond that impulse buy. We want to help you understand the crucial, often hidden factors that successful gardeners use.
To see if something is actually right for their lifestyle.
Exactly. We are going way beyond just the color of the petals and focusing on the core mechanics, the plant's sustainability,
How often it blooms, what its family demands.
and crucially, the return on your time investment.
Okay, so let's unpack this initial infatuation. The star of the notes, as we said, is the Siam Tulip, botanically Curcuma alismatifolia.
And the gardener's initial notes, they are just heavy with emotion. They call it a magnificent
Tropical beauty.
They talk about the upright striking flowers, which are usually pink or purple, and they're set off against this really luxurious, deep green foliage.
It looks like a
showstopper. I mean, it's something that would immediately elevate any space. It just screams exotic success.
It does, but what's so fascinating here, and what the notes really dig into, is how often that common name creates completely false expectations.
Right, it leads so many new gardeners astray. When you see or hear Siam Tulip, you immediately frame it in your mind as what, a standard bulb?
Yeah, something you plant once, maybe you give it a cold period, and then you expect it to burst forth in spring like its Dutch cousins, the tulipa.
But that's not what this is.
So we need to correct that assumption right out of the gate, based on the gardener's own careful notation of the botanical family. What is the true identity here?
Well, this is the first real aha moment of this deep dive. Despite the name, it is botanically not a true tulip.
Okay.
The Siam Tulip belongs to the
Zingiberaceae family,
Which is
the ginger or turmeric family.
Wait, ginger? That immediately changes everything about how you approach this plant, doesn't it?
It totally
It
does.
completely shifts your thinking from spring bulb management to something more like tropical root crop maintenance.
Precisely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of care, being in the ginger family has these immense practical implications.
Like what?
Well, true tulips are designed to handle cold dormancy. The Siam tulip, on the other hand, is a rhizome. It requires high heat, high humidity, and this specific rich, well-draining soil pretty much year-round.
It needs true tropical conditions.
It really does. It's not a hardy perennial you can just leave in the ground in most climates. You're basically signing up to maintain a tiny slice of Southeast Asia in your home or greenhouse.
And that dramatically increases the complexity of the maintenance, especially if you're in a non-tropical zone.
Oh, for sure.
You're not just planting a bulb and walking away. You are actively managing temperature, humidity trays, maybe even specialized grow lights just to get it through the winter.
Right. And this explains why, despite that initial stunning visual, the gardener wrote that their enthusiasm was tempered by caution regarding acquisition.
That caution is the
Crucial turning point.
It is, and it brings up a big question. What is the key factor beyond just the general tropical demands that made them hesitate?
I mean, they clearly wanted the beauty.
The beauty was immense, but the constraint just overcame it. And the constraint, it comes down entirely to the fundamental physics of its bloom cycle. And the source material identifies this as the core limitation. The Siam tulip is characterized as an annual bloomer. It is not a plant that offers you sporadic beauty across a season or even multiple seasons.
And when you say annual bloomer, you mean it only flowers once per calendar year. Period, no matter how much you pamper it.
That's the reality. You have a finite window of reward. The notes highlight that each individual flower stalk only blooms for approximately, 3 weeks before it fades.
Wow. Only 3 weeks.
And that specific stem, it flowers only once.
So you invest 52 weeks of effort for 21 days of payoff from any one growth point.
And let's get into that commitment. We need to detail the workload because you're not just putting in the
21 days of appreciating the flowers. You're putting in the other 344 days of maintenance. What does that yearly commitment actually look like?
It's a game of risk management, particularly during the dormant period. Unlike a hardy bulb, this tropical rhizome is dormant for a good part of the year. And dormancy management means finding the perfect balance. Storing the rhizome in conditions that prevent the two great killers rot from too much moisture.
And desiccation from drying out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you spend months babying an object that looks less like a beautiful flower and more like, I don't know, a shriveled root just waiting for a very short performance.
Yeah.
So for the learner who's trying to assess the value of their time, this presents a significant time-to-reward ratio problem.
Yeah.
You have to invest a full year in managing soil, humidity, light, pests.
all while the plant looks its absolute worst.
Right. Just to be rewarded with 3 weeks of peak floral
Performance. That kind of sporadic payoff is a high-stakes bet.
But hold on, I have to push back on the gardener's premise a little bit.
Here we go for it.
For serious plant collectors, or, those who follow limited edition trends, isn't rarity part of the appeal?
That's a great point.
I mean, if it only blooms for 3 weeks, doesn't that make it the gardening equivalent of a limited edition sneaker drop? Wouldn't the difficulty and the constraint make it more desirable, precisely because the beauty is so fleeting?
That's a fantastic challenge, and it really highlights the difference between what I call a collector's garden and a contentment garden.
A contentment garden, I like that.
Yeah, in the specialist world, say, for rare orchids or something, scarcity definitely drives value. But the notes here suggest that this gardener values visible, ongoing success
in their general landscape, not just bragging rights.
They need that consistent visual feedback.
Exactly. I think what this gardener is expressing is a doubt that the fleeting limited edition moment can sustain
their gardening enjoyment for 12 months.
That frame of contentment garden versus collector's garden really defines the motivation here. Now, to reinforce this practical concern, the gardener brings up a clear counterexample.
They do something they already grow successfully.
The ground orchid, or Spathoglottis plicata.
And the comparison to the ground orchid serves as the perfect illustration of this gardener's preferred style. The source specifically notes they already have good success with it, and that it thrives under a stated minimal care approach.
We should probably define minimal care more clearly. What does the ground orchid do that makes it so much more forgiving than the Siam Tulip?
Well, the ground orchid is just significantly more robust. While it appreciates tropical conditions, it tolerates less than perfect light, a wider range of temperatures.
So it's not as sensitive.
Not at all. And crucially, it manages water better, which means the risk of fatal rot during watering mistakes is much, much lower. It's far less dramatic in its needs.
It's the reliable workhorse of the tropical garden.
And its output matches its ease of care, right?
Absolutely, and that is the core difference. The ground orchid provides frequent sporadic blooming throughout the warmer months. It often reflowers from the same stems or produces new spikes quickly.
So you get this continual low-level reward for minimal effort.
Which contrasts so starkly with the Siam Tulip's brief, high-intensity annual display that requires maximal waiting.
So what this comparison tells us is that, really, success in gardening isn't just about picking a plant you like the look of.
It's not that simple.
It's about matching the plant's internal operating schedule to your willingness to wait. This feels like the synthesis moment for the listener. What does this all mean for the gardener's final decision?
It means the core reason for skipping Siam Tulip,
For now at least, is that self-expressed doubt. A doubt about waiting annually for such a limited return on investment.
They said they doubt they would wait annually for it to bloom.
Right, which is
another way of saying they value consistency and frequency over high-stakes short-term spectacle. And this decision illustrates a fundamental truth in successful horticulture. You have to match the plant's needs and its output schedule to your personal maintenance style.
Yeah.
If you're happiest as a minimal care gardener, choosing a maximal waiting plant is simply setting yourself up for, frustration and disappointment.
That puts the choice into such sharp perspective. It really forces you, the listener, to confront your own commitment level before you buy anything. It emphasizes that understanding a plant's bloom cycle and its true botanical family is essential context that should far outweigh that initial, beautiful visual impact you get at the nursery.
The consistency and the ease of care defined as the final choice. But And here's the final analytical nugget from the source.
Okay.
Despite the fern decision not to acquire the plant now, the gardener suggests revisiting the species in the future. They didn't cross it off the list forever.
That's a fascinating loose end.
Why hold on to the possibility? I mean, why think about acquiring an annual short-blooming plant when the clear preference is for frequent low-maintenance reward?
What specialized scenario could possibly justify the effort? And if we connect it to the bigger picture, this raises a really important question for you, the listener, to consider. What specialized condition or unique function would make a gardener who values frequent bloom and who has rejected this plant purely on its annual short bloom cycle, what would make them reconsider it later?
That's a good question.
Think about the context, you know? Could it be a planting required for a specific holiday or a specialized cutting flower operation? Or maybe a dedicated space where humidity is already controlled, where the plant's dormancy is entirely managed by automation.
Something that changes the entire value proposition.
Exactly.
Which changes the value proposition of a spectacular 3-week yearly bloom. That's the challenge for your curiosity until our next deep dive.